Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Yes, the one corner of the internet where we speak about desire the way most people only whisper about it in the dark. I want you to imagine this. It's a grey Tuesday, nothing special on the calendar, yet her phone lights up with a single line you've sent. It is not a compliment, not a question, not a meme. It is a sentence so precisely tuned to who she is that it feels like you have slipped your hand under her ribcage and given her heart a gentle squeeze. For the next 12 hours, she will walk through meetings and grocery aisles, and every time the screen of her mind flickers, it is your words glowing there, not because they were grand, but because they made her feel seen in a way she had forgotten she wanted to be seen. You see, after 30, most of us stop believing that a text can rearrange the furniture inside someone's soul. We think romance is a young person's currency, full of fireworks and insecurity. But the truth is, the older we get, the more we crave resonance over spectacle. A single line at the right frequency can echo longer than any bouquet or bracelet. Today I'm going to show you how to compose that line, not by copying templates, but by tuning yourself to the emotional pitch of the woman you're writing to. We will talk about rhythm, about memory, about the quiet power of withholding as much as revealing. By the end of our time together, you will hold a sentence so alive it will travel with her through traffic jams and dentist waiting rooms, and she will not resent the hold it has on her. She will cherish it. So, let's begin with the very first breath of that message. The moment your thumb hovers and the room feels suddenly bigger, close your eyes for half a second and picture her in motion. Not posed for a photo, not smiling for the camera, but in the small, unguarded choreography of her real life. Maybe she's leaning over the kitchen sink at 7:14 in the morning, hair still carrying the warmth of the pillow, steam from the kettle curling around her wrist. She is humming something she doesn't realize she remembers from her mother. Her shoulders are doing that almost shrug she does when she's deciding whether today deserves optimism. Now imagine your text arriving just then, not a demand, not a check in disguised as affection, but a soft pulse that lands in her day like the first note of a song she once loved and had forgotten. That is the standard we are holding today, because after 30, attention becomes currency, scarce, precious, and therefore deeply erotic. The mistake most men make is believing that to be memorable they must be loud, longer messages, bigger promises, more emojis than a teenager's diary. But memory does not obey volume. Memory obeys specificity. A single, well-placed detail can tattoo itself onto her inner monologue. So let's start with the architecture of that detail. First, anchor your text to a shared experience that already lives inside her nervous system. Not the vacation, not the anniversary dinner. Those are postcards everyone keeps. Reach for the smaller moment, the way she once laughed mid-kiss because a raindrop slid off your eyelash onto her lip, the time you both got stuck behind a tractor on the way to nowhere, and she started singing commercial jingles to pass the time. When you reference that private constellation, you are not reminding her of a story, you are reminding her of the way her body felt in that story. Sensation always trumps narrative. Second, leave deliberate space. A text that tells the whole tale in one breath is a closed door. A text that ends on a gentle cliffhanger is an invitation she will reopen in her mind all day. Think of it as leaving the window cracked so the scent of what's outside can drift in. For instance, instead of, "I keep thinking about the way you tasted like sea salt and sunscreen," you might write, "I keep thinking about the way you tasted like sea salt, and I had to stop because the memory made the elevator feel too small." That unfinished aftertaste is what she will carry with her, like a pebble in her shoe, slight, insistent, impossible to ignore. Third, speak to the woman she is becoming, not only the woman she has been. After 30, identity is less a fixed portrait and more a slow motion blooming. Acknowledge the stretch. Maybe she's learning Italian in 10-minute Duolingo bursts between meetings. Maybe she's taken up cold water swimming because she reads somewhere that shock resets the nervous system. Mirror that becoming back to her. A line as simple as, "I'm watching you fold languages into your mornings and bravery into your skin, and it makes me want to rise to meet you," does two things. It witnesses her evolution, and it positions you as someone worthy of witnessing it. Now, let's weave those three strands: shared sensory memory, deliberate space, recognition of her becoming, into one living sentence. Imagine she once told you that as a child she collected broken seashells because she believed the cracks told better stories. 2 weeks later at dawn, you send this: "On the beach this morning I found a shell with a lightning-shaped fracture, and instead of pocketing it I left it where the tide could finish the story. Because some bricks deserve to keep traveling." Thought of you and your faith in unfinished things. No declaration of love, no emoji heart, just an image that lets her inhabit the scene with you. That single line will follow her into her 9:30 stand-up meeting, into the line at the pharmacy, into the 3-second low before she falls asleep. And here is the quiet power: the text is not asking for anything, it is a gift without ribbon or receipt. Paradoxically, that lack of demand is what makes her lean forward. When desire is not chased, it deepens. When curiosity is not cornered, it circles back on its own. Your job is not to convince her to think of you. Your job is to place yourself so gently inside her ongoing story that thinking you becomes the most natural continuity of her day. So, as you hold your phone now, resist the urge to perform. Instead, listen inward for the softest, truest note of what her presence awakens in you. We will spend the next while refining how that note is played, how it is timed, how it is left to resonate. The next layer, the one that turns a beautiful sentence into an irresistible presence, is rhythm, the inhale and exhale of contact that keeps longing alive without exhausting it. We'll explore how often, how suddenly, how tenderly to reappear so that anticipation itself becomes a form of touch. Imagine the two of you are dancing in separate rooms connected only by the music of your messages. The song is slow, but the pulse underneath it is quickening. She has already slipped your earlier text into the pocket of her day like a smooth river stone, and every so often her thumb finds it again, turning it over just to feel the shape. Your job now is to decide when the next note arrives. Most men panic here. They either flood her inbox or vanish so long that the thread cools into polite archive. Neither extreme creates longing. Longing is a duet between presence and absence. Lean too far either way and the music stops. So let's talk rhythm. Think of your texts as breaths, some deep and deliberate, some barely audible. If the last message you sent felt like a soft exhale, an image of a shell and the tide, let the next one arrive when she least expects the inhale. Maybe 3 hours later, maybe after lunch, when her mind is still warm from soup and half distracted by spreadsheets. You send something so short it almost feels accidental. The elevator was still too small. No context, no greeting, just the continuation of yesterday's unfinished sentence. In that moment, she will feel the tug of a private thread tightening between your two ordinary afternoons. She may not reply right away. She doesn't need to. The goal is not conversation. The goal is co-presence, the sense that her inner weather is being quietly witnessed. Now let's deepen the texture. Language itself has skin, and skin responds to temperature. Warm words melt, linger, soften the body's edges. Cool words, clear, crisp, sudden, wake the nerves. Alternate them so the reading experience becomes visceral. Yesterday you used warm, tight, fracture, faith. Today let a cool word slip in. I clocked how the wind snapped the flag against the pole, and the sound reminded me of your laugh when it catches you off guard, sharp, certain, unguarded. Notice the swing from warm wind to cool, snap back to warmth, unguarded. That micro movement mirrors the way her own breath changes when she thinks of you. She doesn't analyze it, she feels it. Next, borrow from the architecture of perfume. A fragrance is built in 3 movements: top note, heart note, base note. Your text can do the same. The top note is immediate and bright, something she can grasp in a glance. The heart note is emotional resonance, why this moment matters. The base note is the lingering trail, the thing that will still be there at 3 a.m. when she turns her pillow looking for coolness. Let's build one together. Suppose she once told you her favorite childhood scent was her grandmother's lemon tree. Top note, lemon peel under my nails. Heart note, for a second I was 9 again. Stealing slices from the kitchen counter. Base note, and then I missed the way you tilt your head when you're about to tell the truth. 3 layers, 1 sentence, hours of echo. Another subtle tool, the pivot from external observation to internal confession. When you describe the world, you give her a place to stand next to you. When you reveal the effect that world has on you, you give her a place to step inside you. Try this. The sky tonight looks like the inside of an abalone shell, all mother of pearl and bruise. I wanted to photograph it for you, then realized I'd rather keep looking until the color matches the feeling I get right before I say your name. Suddenly the spectacle is no longer the sky, it's the widening inside your chest. That widening invites her own. And finally, let's address the ache most men are afraid to name, the fear that if you show too much softness, you will lose the erotic tension. But softness, when offered from a centered place, is not surrender, it is seduction. The difference lies in cadence. If every text drips with longing, the tone collapses under its own weight. Instead, slip tenderness in like contraband, brief, potent, unmistakable. After a day of playful banter, send this just before she goes to sleep. I'm turning off the light now, but I'm keeping one hand on the phone in case the night decides to say something only you would understand. There it is. The hush of vulnerability tucked inside a confident frame. You are not asking her to rescue you. You are letting her witness you, choosing to remain reachable. That choice is magnetic. By now the rhythm is alive. Small surprises, sensory layering, emotional pivot, measured vulnerability. Her internal soundtrack has a new bass line and it is pulsing your name. In a few hours, when the sky shifts again or the elevator stalls between floors, she will reach for her phone not to escape the moment but to deepen it with you. And that, my friend, is how longing begins to colonize ordinary time. There is a moment late at night when the city finally exhales. The traffic thins, the streetlights flicker like tired eyes, and somewhere a dog barks once, as if reminding the darkness it still has a job to do. She is brushing her teeth, running the same automatic circles she has run since childhood, and yet tonight the mint tastes faintly of possibility because your last text is still dissolving on her tongue. She spits, rinses and looks at herself in the mirror longer than usual. That is the moment we are cultivating, the slow, almost imperceptible tilt from "I wonder what he meant" I wonder what it would feel like to stand in the same room while he means it. Let's talk about the alchemy of anticipation. Chemistry class taught us that a catalyst speeds a reaction without being consumed, but no one explained how a sentence can do the same to longing. The trick is to give our body just enough data to begin its own experiment. Earlier, we used sensory breadcrumbs, wind snapping a flag, lemon peel under nails. Now we layer in temporal suspense. Instead of describing what already happened, hint at what is still to come. Tomorrow there will be a sliver of moon, so thin you could thread it through the eye of a needle. I plan to look at it exactly at 9:42 p.m. If your heart jumps at the same second, we'll know the thread held. Notice what you did not say: meet me, call me, text me when you see it. You simply created a shared future moment suspended in possibility. She may set an alarm, she may not. Either way, the moon becomes your accomplice. Next, braid memory into prophecy. When you reference yesterday's shell with the lightning fracture, you are not being sentimental, you are tracing continuity. Humans are storytelling creatures, and nothing is more seductive than realizing someone else is keeping careful record of our becoming. So return to the seashell. But this time let it evolve. The tide did come back for the shell last night. I watched it lift and spin like a coin deciding heads or tails. I still don't know which side it landed on, but I felt the question travel through the water and tug my ankle like a child asking to be carried. Suddenly the shell is no longer an object, it is an omen, and she is implicated in its outcome. She will stand in tomorrow's shower feeling the ghost of that tug around her own ankle. Another quiet power is the pronoun shift. Most texts stay anchored in I saw, I felt, I remembered. Slip occasionally into. Even when describing something you did alone, we listen to the wind change its mind about direction. She was not physically there, yet the pronoun invites her to retroactively inhabit the scene. Over time, the boundary between your solitary experience and her imagined presence begins to blur. That blurring is intimacy in its earliest, most delicious form. Now let's address the texture of silence. Silence between messages is not absence, it is negative space in a photograph, necessary for the eye to know where to rest. If you have sent 3 evocative texts in one afternoon, do not apologize for going quiet that evening. Instead, let the silence become part of the composition. She will lean into it the way one leans into the pause between heartbeats, certain the next one will come. When you do reappear, make the re-entry gentle, almost conspiratorial. I went quiet because the night smelled like blackberries and rain, and I wanted to hear how loudly a color could fall. The explanation is not owed, it is offered as a gift, and gifts create reciprocity. Finally, let's place a small wager on risk. Pick one truth you have not yet spoken. Not a confession of love, nothing so grand, just a detail that feels slightly too real. Perhaps it is the way her collarbone looks when she is concentrating, or the tiny scar on her wrist that she once dismissed as nothing. Name it, but name it sideways. I keep thinking about the constellation of freckles just below your left shoulder. I want to learn their mythology, but I am afraid once I name them they might rearrange themselves into a different story. The fear you admit is not weakness, it is reverence. Reverence is the most adult form of desire. It acknowledges that the other person is vast, unknowable, and therefore endlessly worthy of pursuit. By morning she will wake to a world that feels tuned half a degree toward mystery. The coffee will taste the same, the commute will crawl the same, but underneath everything will be the quiet thrum of a conversation still unfolding. And when her phone finally lights up again, it will not feel like an interruption. It will feel like the next natural breath. She is standing in the grocery line, idly watching the barcode scanner blink like a tiny red heartbeat. In her cart, almond milk, dark chocolate, one overpriced mango because it smelled like the summers she hasn't tasted in years. Somewhere between the conveyor belt and the chip reader she feels it, your next line slipping into her pocket of awareness the way a coin slides into a jukebox and releases an old song, not a vibration or resonance. Let's talk about tempo now, because tempo is the difference between a waltz and a chase. Up to this point, you've been generous with imagery, generous with space. Tonight, tighten the frame just enough to make her feel the tug of proximity without crowding her breath. Send something that lands like a fingertip tracing the inside of her wrist, short, warm, impossible to ignore. Tell me the last thing that made you lose track of time today. Nothing more. A question so open it feels like a doorway. She can decorate however she chooses. She might answer immediately. She might wait until the mango is sliced and the kitchen smells like August. Either way, the question positions you as the curator of her interior life, and that is more intimate than any compliment. When she does reply, maybe it was the way her nephew mispronounced ambulance. Maybe it was the 30 seconds she stood on the balcony watching a plastic bag tango with the wind. Mirror back the texture, not the content. I could feel the hush between your sentences, the way wonder always leaves a small echo. You are not summarizing. You are amplifying. Amplification is the secret handshake of adults who have learned that being understood is rarer and therefore more erotic than being adored. Next, introduce a private ritual. Rituals turn ordinary time into shared mythology. Choose something lightweight, repeatable, invisible to the outside world. For example, every Thursday at sunset you will both notice the color of the sky for 3 silent seconds. No post, no proof, just the quiet synchronization of attention. The first time you mention it, frame it like a secret society with only 2 members. Thursday sky check. Same time wherever we are. If it's coral, I'll think of your collarbone under late light. If it's bruised purple, I'll think of the hush right after you laugh. Over weeks, this tiny observance will knit itself into the lining of her routine. One Thursday she'll be stuck in traffic, glance west, and feel the sky slip a private note into her palm. That note will have your fingerprints all over it. Now, let's flirt with contradiction, because contradiction is where personality breathes. Earlier you admitted fear of naming her freckles, of rearranging their mythology. Tonight, balance that vulnerability with a quiet assertion of agency. I'm learning the difference between wanting to hold something and wanting to witness it move. Some nights I can do both. The sentence is soft, but the undertow is strong. You are not waiting for permission. You are choosing to stay curious. That steadiness is intoxicating to a woman who has spent decades managing other people's needs. Finally, see the future seen so lightly that it feels inevitable rather than planned. Do not ask her to dinner. Instead, describe the moment right before dinner as if it has already begun to unfold. I can already feel the chill of the wine glass against my fingertips, condensation slipping like a secret toward the stem. I'll wait to take the first sip until you're mid-sentence, because wine tastes better when it's chasing your voice. Notice you did not mention the restaurant, the day, the menu. You simply placed her voice inside the sensory architecture of an evening that hasn't happened yet. The imagination will rush to fill in the rest, and she will find herself rehearsing that moment the way one rehearses a kiss in the mirror, privately, deliciously, until the imagined and the real are no longer separate categories. By the time she locks her front door, kicks off her shoes, and flips open the mango with the precision of someone who learned fruit from her grandmother, the day will feel threaded with small, luminous beads of you. She will not need to scroll back to reread. The sentences have moved from screen to skin, and tomorrow, when the sky performs its Thursday color, she will lift her eyes without thinking and feel the hush between heartbeats widen just enough to let you in. She is already in bed, lamp off, phone dim to the gentlest glow. The day's mascara, a faint bruise beneath each eye. Somewhere in the corridor of her chest, a small, stubborn lantern is still lit, and its flame is shaped like the last line you left her. The house is quiet enough that she can hear the refrigerator humming its small mechanical lullaby, yet the silence is not empty. It is full of the conversation you have been weaving for days, now moving from words into something more like weather. This is the moment when a text can graduate from charming to unforgettable, when it stops being a message and becomes a place she can walk into barefoot. Begin with a hush. The world is loud. Give her a pocket of stillness she did not know she needed. Your opening line should arrive like a hand resting lightly on the small of her back, present, reassuring, but not steering. I just closed the window because the night felt too wide without your voice in it. Notice how the sentence admits longing without pleading. It also creates a sensory echo, cool air, wide darkness, and places her voice as the missing element that would restore balance. She will exhale at the exact speed your words inhale it, and the two of you will share a breath across whatever miles or walls remain. Next, offer a final image that gathers every thread you have spun, the shell, the elevator, the Thursday sky, the freckles, into one coherent tapestry. The image must be ordinary and mythic at once, like a kitchen table that is also an altar. I keep a tiny bowl on my desk now. Inside it, one pale fragment of shell, one purple thread from the hem of your coat I found on my sleeve, and a slip of paper where I wrote the word Thursday. In your handwriting, I copied it from the grocery list you left in my car. 3 things that weigh almost nothing and still manage to tip the entire day toward you. This is not a souvenir, it is a shrine. Shrines turn memory into ritual, and ritual turns affection into devotion she can feel in her bones. Then gift her the gentlest command you have ever given: permission to miss you without guilt. If you wake at 3:17 with my name caught between your teeth, swallow it or speak it. Both are prayers. The line is playful, reverent, and slightly dangerous. It acknowledges that longing may visit her at inconvenient hours, and it blesses the inconvenience. A woman who has spent years managing calendars and caretaking emotions will feel the exquisite relief of being told that her ache is sacred rather than messy. Now step back. Not by disappearing, but by widening the lens so that she sees you seeing her within a much larger story. Someday, when we are braver with time, I want to drive until the only lights are stars and the only music is your laugh echoing off the dashboard. No destination, just the evidence that 2 people can keep choosing the same direction. The future you sketch is not a proposal, it is a horizon. Horizons pull without pushing, and women who have already built careers, raised children, buried parents, and learned how to dine alone know the difference between a cage and a compass. Finally, end with a benediction so quiet it feels like a secret she'll keep for the rest of her life. Until then, keep the window cracked. I'll slip in with the breeze when you're not looking, and I'll leave before you wake. But the room will hold my shape long enough for you to remember why morning tastes different. Lock the phone, set it down, let the ellipses breathe. Do not follow up. Do not check if she's typing. Let the night finish the sentence for you. And there it is, no fireworks, no grand declarations, only a trail of small, precise breadcrumbs leading from her ordinary day into the extraordinary possibility of being truly seen. She will close her eyes carrying your voice like a pocket of warm seawater inside her chest. Somewhere between the first and second dream, the room will indeed hold your shape, and when daylight edges around the curtain, she will smile before she remembers why. That smile is the echo of every word you chose, every silence you honored, every risk you took to remain honest without becoming heavy. Send that final text, then trust the physics of longing. What is light enough to travel on breath will always find its way home.